Campers from Victoria's so-called tent city continue to move into the new temporary homeless shelter on Yates Street. Our Place Society says that about 20 campers have made the transition so far. CTV's Bruce Williams has more on how some of them ended up needing the support.
Every story that you see on CTV News, we show you people. All of those people have a story. You never know the full story, but I think some of those stories should be told. Something we've been following all week is the transition of life for a number of people who are moving into the temporary shelter established in downtown Victoria, who have been camping out on the courthouse lawn in Victoria. Don Evans is with Our Place. He's the guy that's coordinated much of what's been going on. So the province and the city and the United Way came forward to fund what's happening here. It's life-changing for these people, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of these people have been outside for a long period of time, and they don't use a lot of the services that are provided by the service providers, and we're not connecting with them. So here's an opportunity that some of these people are moving into my place, and some of them we're connecting for the first time, and other ones, we know them, but they've really lost hope in the system, and so for the opportunity for them to try and transition to the housing is pretty amazing for them.
And when you say the system, something we want to clarify here too is we're going to hear a specific story of these folks and how they got in this circumstance. Not necessarily the support system, but the system around them, the culture in which we live, our society, if you will. So give me an example of how someone in this group of people ended up to be in that circumstance that they're in.
Well, the one thing that I hear a lot is how they've come into crisis, or they've had some circumstances, that have created their situation, and there's just not the support for them to get out. At least they don't know where to get it. They may not have the family support. They may not know what other support's available to them, and then they get caught in their situation where they end up homeless and they don't know how to get out of it. Yeah. And it's so hard to get out of it. I mean, there's one gentleman I talked to yesterday that is in my place now, and he lost his job. And they didn't pay him. They owed him $3,000 and didn't pay him. So he was all of a sudden had no money to be able to pay his rent, and he ended up homeless. And when you're homeless, it's really hard to find a job when you don't have an address. Yeah. It's really hard to rent an apartment when you don't have a reference. And so they get trapped in it, and they try to get on welfare, and there's not usually enough for the housing allowance to be able to rent a place. And so they get caught in that situation, and they can't get out of it.
People may have not had the opportunity for education or training in the past, so the jobs that they've had through life has not created a huge prosperity for them. And they're never that far away from being in that circumstance. One or two paychecks and you're out.
And these are smart people.
Sure.
I mean, these are people that, it would break your heart when you talk to them and you see the situation they're in and how they got there, and you think, just how do we let that happen? I mean, there's a couple there right now that's married, and there was some health issues, and they ended up losing their place. They ended up getting evicted, and they just can't get a place. They just can't find a place, and there's mental health issues involved in their situation, and I mean, it's just so sad, to watch this.
The surprising thing for a lot of people who watched what we were doing on CTV was that these are married couples, or people that are life partners together. Both end up in the same circumstance. They have each other, but that's all they have.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of couples in the camp, and we have about 8 of them that are moving into my place, and most of them are young. They're young couples, and I mean, it could be my daughter, it could be your daughter, and but here's an opportunity that maybe we can try to get them back on track.
Also, want to clarify something every time we get this opportunity with you and others. These are not people who chose to be in Victoria for the purpose of being homeless or in this circumstance. They didn't come from someplace where there's wintertime and come here because it's more mild. If they had the money to do that, they wouldn't be in this circumstance. So that's not the case.
It's not what we see at all. I mean, most people that are street entrenched and they're homeless for a period of time, they stay close to where the resources are that they know and they're familiar with. They don't travel around. I mean, you do get the younger demographic that travels around a bit, but they travel back and forth across the country, and that's a bit of a different situation.
And some of the people in this circumstance at your place, which is what this place is being called, or my place rather, are quite young. I mean, they're barely out of their teens.
There's many of them that are in their 20s. Much more there than the general homeless population that we normally see. We generally see, an older population, but these are people that have chosen to not go in the shelters, and they can handle the elements a little better. They're a little younger, and they you know, they work together. I mean, it's amazing how well that they functioned on that property, working together with the challenges that they face every day.
People will very often see a circumstance like is happening now, and they will delegate that. They'll say, oh, the province and the city and the United Way are going to take care of these people and it's all done. No, this is going to continue at the full-time facility at our place. How can we help you now?
Well, there's 40 people that are going to be coming into my place to be able to transition to the housing. There's going to be at least another 80 people left there. And that's only part of it. I mean, there's many more that aren't even on that site in this community. So, I mean, we need to come together as a community, and we need to address the issues around homelessness and these people that are so vulnerable and need our support. So, you know, if we all work together, I think we can end this. But it's not going to happen unless we have everybody working together and everybody wanting to make a difference. So it's not just the government, it's the whole community that has to be involved in this and support this.
So please consider supporting Our Place and what they're doing, or the United Way, or the organizations that make this happen, or whatever organizations in your community on Vancouver Island are doing similar work to what Don and his folks are doing. Thanks for coming in.